think we're going to go ahead and end this, and then that should, well, all right, let's try this. Let's try keeping it up. Okay, welcome everybody to our September general meeting. I'm Emmy Cardella, I'm the SPC president. We will start off with Jill Lassen. We'll do our land acknowledgement.
Sorry about that. Okay. So as we gather for this meeting, physically dispersed and virtually constructed, let us just take a moment to reflect on the meaning of place, and in doing so, let us recognize the various traditional lands on which we do our business today. So we wish to acknowledge this land on which the meeting is taking place. For thousands of years, it's been the traditional land of the Hohokam, the Akima Oram, and most recently our neighbors, the Salt River Pima Indian community. Today, this meeting place is still the home to many indigenous people from across Maricopa, and we're grateful to have the opportunity to live and work on this land. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so here's our agenda for tonight. All of our general meetings have a similar structure. We have our executive board updates, and then we have an opportunity for any of the SPC reps to do a 1-minute announcement. And then we have 15 minutes of question and answer with Dr. Menzel, which while we're doing these virtually, we've been collecting those questions ahead of time. And then tonight we have a presentation from JOANN CROHN from No Guilt Mom about teaching kids how to take control of virtual learning. So I'm going to end this poll. And it should, here we go. If I share results, it should show everyone. So you can glance through that. Okay. Okay, sit down. So first up for our board updates, we have Treasurer Megan Prince.
Hi all, just a reminder that we are now collecting the recommended school donation that helps us with our administrative costs and any needs that we may have throughout the year. General membership is free, so if you're not a school representative, come and join us anytime for free. We definitely appreciate donations as well though. And then if you're a school representative, you should have gotten an email from me to pass along. You can donate on our website at scottsdaleparentcouncil.org, and you can also view the latest treasurer's report there under About and Board Docs. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Megan. Next up, we have Jill and Allie, our VPs of programming, to fill us in on what is upcoming.
Okay, we have an event at the end of this month. It is going to be on public education funding. So it's a very factual, nonpartisan presentation on how our public education funding works in Arizona. We're finalizing the last bit of our general meeting for October, but the topic is going to be diversity, equity, and inclusion. And as always, really appreciate if you fill out our programming survey. We really love to hear your thoughts and your opinions on what you want to see. So thank you.
Thank you, Jill. And then next up we have Brad, the VP of Communications.
Hi everybody. So I've been working with SUSD's IT, and we're making every attempt to notify parents of any system outages. We've also separated our calendar from SUSD's, so you're not getting duplicate events. If anybody has any questions about getting our calendar into your system, let me know. Also, be sure to follow us on social media and contact me with any questions or concerns. Thanks.
Thank you, Brad. And then our VPs of Outreach, Lulu and Kira.
Hi, everyone. We are having, actually, let me recap the PTO roundtable event went great. We had a lot of wonderful ideas that we shared. It was recorded via Zoom and is posted on the SPC page, I believe, or at least the outreach Facebook page for Scottsdale Parent Council. We have our school supply backpack drive this Saturday. Drop off would be between 10:30 and 12:30 with the 2 locations, Mojave and Coronado. Or if people can't make it, we're offering a virtual backpack sponsorship where, you know, for $30 you could donate a backpack full of supplies, and you could make that donation right through Scottsdale Parent Council. Click make a donation, and I know that Brad was working on an option of putting in a note so that we know that it goes to the backpack drive. So if you could put in the notes that's where that money is going. And if you don't follow us on our Facebook group page, I am constantly posting information from wherever I get it. It's a great resource. Use it. And yeah, and I look forward to seeing all your smiling faces one day soon. That's all.
All right, thank you, Lulu.
Thank you.
And next are VPs of Advocacy, Holly and Pamela.
Hello. So we have a event coming up on September 29th. As you know, there are 6 candidates for the SUSD governing board, and we have 5 of those candidates are participating in a candidate forum on the 29th. It's going to be moderated by Wayne Shetsky from Scottsdale Progress. We've gotten a lot of submissions. Appreciate everyone's participation, filling out the survey of what topics you want to see covered and what questions you want answered. So we are just finalizing, compiling those. So appreciate everyone's feedback. And then, as I'm sure most know, we have a big election coming up, and the last day to register to vote is October 5th. Also, we do have Facebook group for SPC advocacy as well. If you're not following that, that's where we put a lot of this information. That's it. Thanks.
All right, thank you, Holly. And in our committee update, so we have 3 standing committees. One of them is social responsibility. So they're focused on investigating the best practices of SUSD in preventing bullying and reducing harassment. So they had their first meeting yesterday. They'll have another meeting in 2 weeks, and they want to grow their membership. So if you are interested, you can reach out to Karen to contact her about their next meeting. And our whole presentation is always on our website as well. So if you're not catching any of the links or emails, don't worry about it. You can find that on our website. And then our special education committee. So they are hosting a virtual parent support group next Wednesday from 6:30 to 7:30, and you can RSVP to Larissa for that. And then they also have a Facebook group, a discussion group. So that's the name of it. Just search for that if you would like to join that. And they're always looking for committee members as well. So just reach out to Larissa for either of those. And then our representative announcements. So I believe we have 2 announcements. We have Lisa Canarish from Sequoia and Lori Jones from Scottsdale Online. So these are our 1-minute announcements at all of our general meetings. Any representative can make an announcement. So I'll have Lisa go first, and then Lori just jump right in after her.
Okay, well, I have some good news from Sequoia Elementary. One of our amazing 5th grade teachers, Mrs. Katie Dodgen, received a $1,000 STEM grant from the ASU Foundation. And Sparky himself delivered the check to school while she was online with her class, and that was very special for the kids. He also stuck around and did some cheers with them, so that was much appreciated. And the whole Sequoia community is very proud of her, and we can't wait to get some new STEM supplies. So thank you.
All right, thank you. Is Lori here? Can't see the list. Okay. So
I'm sorry. Can I go over my slide real quick?
Oh, I'm sorry. How did I skip over it?
Yes.
I was clicking too fast. Here we go. Thank you, Rose. So we have Rose, the VP of SPC Representatives.
Hi, everyone. I just wanted to let everybody know we do have at least one rep from all schools. Yay! But we still have some openings because each school is allowed 2 reps. So we still have at least one opening with Cochise, Pueblo, Cocopah, Ingleside, Coronado, and Scottsdale Online. So please, reach out to parents and see if anybody would like to be a rep here. Let myself or Rachel know. And a reminder also, current reps, please complete the Code of Ethics form. And the link is there, and you've also been emailed the link. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Rose. Okay, so now we are on to our Q&A with Dr. Menzel, and Jill will be asking our questions again.
I keep muting myself and forgetting. So, all right. Welcome, Dr. Menzel.
Thank you.
And glad to have you back. Just so you guys know, we did take questions in advance for reasons of time. However, several of the questions that were submitted were addressed at last night's governing board meeting. So we didn't want to kind of do double duty there. So we really encourage parents to watch that, to look for your specific questions if they are answered tonight here. So let's see here. First question we have, Dr. Menzel, can you provide parents with clear information on how they plan to handle positive cases at each school and what will be reported to parents when a case occurs? Will just the infected classroom student population be informed, or will the campus population be informed?
Well, thank you for the question. And I would start by thanking all of you for your active participation and support for the Scottsdale Unified School District and the education of your children. Partnering with parents is absolutely critical for us. When it comes to how we're going to approach confirmed cases of COVID-19, you might have seen it, you were at last night's board meeting, or if you have gone on our website, this chart, which is not easy to read when you print it out, but if you're online, you can expand it. And there are very specific guidelines with respect to what we're going to do if there's a confirmed case, what we do when someone's experiencing COVID-19 symptoms, what we do when someone has been in close contact with the confirmed case, as well as household contact. But to make the long story short, we're following the recommendations of Maricopa County Department of Public Health. If someone has tested positive for COVID-19, they're required to be out for 14 days. And we also then begin the process of doing some level of contact tracing to identify who else might have been in close proximity. Those next steps will be in close consultation between the school nurse and our friends at Maricopa County Department of Public Health. What we anticipate happening in terms of notification is probably 2 levels, maybe 3. So if someone has been in close contact with a confirmed case of COVID-19, there'll be a specific letter from Maricopa County Department of Public Health indicating that your child has been in close contact with someone who tested positive, and that comes along with the requirement to quarantine for 14 days and monitor for symptoms. If there are no symptoms, then the individual is permitted to return after 14 days. If there are symptoms, individuals are encouraged to see a physician and or get tested for COVID as soon as possible to confirm whether or not they've actually acquired COVID-19. For those who were not in close contact, may have been in the same class, we think parents want to know, was there a positive case of COVID in the class? So we'll likely have a different letter that indicates that there was a positive case, but unless you got a specific letter from the County Department of Public Health indicating that your child was in close contact and you're required to isolate for 14 days, you would not have a requirement to remain at home at that juncture. We're actually working on whether or not we can get sufficient information to post positive cases by building to share that with our community, because people want to know. One of the keys to being able to open and stay open is to identify, isolate, do the contact tracing so that we don't have people who are sick coming into school and potentially resulting in a spread and requiring us to maybe have to shut down in a way that none of us want. So The specific guidelines and what we're going to do in each case is spelled out in that document. I hope that that answers the question, Jill, but that's kind of the current thinking as we take the next steps on this journey.
Thank you. Kind of on that same note, what is your plan if teachers are exposed or they're actually sick and need to be absent for an extended period of time? Is it going to be the same kind of guidelines? This parent says that their children have already had asynchronous instructional days because subs weren't available. And that's not really ideal for, for learning. So, what's your plan for teachers?
So same thing, teachers and students, the protocol is the same. If you have a positive diagnosis of COVID and or you've had exposure or you're exhibiting symptoms or you live with someone who's had COVID, we have an expectation, both staff and students follow those guidelines. And that does create a challenge then because we would need to have a substitute in the classroom in the event that a teacher's out for 14 days. Most buildings have a permanent sub. We've been working to build our sub pool, but I would be less than honest if I said that we don't have concerns about our ability to have a full cadre of subs because we don't know how many people will be out exhibiting symptoms and taking that precautionary measure of not coming to work. In the past, people came to work when they were sick. It's just a cold, it's allergies, it's something else. And so people generally plowed through it. In this case, when we're trying to be very cautious, it may create some other unintended consequences in terms of needing to backfill in those classrooms. Talking with other districts that have already opened up, the substitute pool is a challenge. We're looking at a lot of different ways to get some emergency sub qualifications for some of our other staff so that we will have a pool of people that are ready to cover. But again, we're going to need to take one step at a time in this process and see how many absences we have, and then we'll be working diligently to make sure that we've got appropriate sub coverage as best we can.
Okay. If the last benchmark of less than 10 per 10,000 positive cases doesn't change by December, is there a different plan in the works following holiday break? Will EDL possibly be extended until the end of the school year? What are you guys looking at as far as that goes?
So that's a really important question, and we're starting to have those conversations, but as I'm sure you can imagine, the bulk of our energy and time is being spent on the phased in return and trying to manage the shifting between those that have indicated a preference to return to learn in person versus those that want to remain in enhanced distance learning. We actually have to build out multiple contingency plans for second semester because we don't know whether or not that last metric moves to green. We don't know if we stay in yellow for the remainder of the school year or if we end up reversing and getting into red. So that will be part of our ongoing planning. Again, one of the things that's important to us is to minimize the disruption. We know we can't eliminate it. In a pandemic, some of the disruptions, forced on us, but we want to figure out strategies that minimize that as best we can. And so we'll be working in the next few months to identify what those next steps might be. I did not feel encouraged about what might happen after the first of the year when the CDC said the vaccine might not be until the end of the second quarter, beginning of third. And I think for all of us, we have to really frame our focus to understand that this pandemic and how we deal with it is likely with us for the 2020-21 school year. As much as we'd all like to be done with it and turn a new page in January 1st, that may not be our reality. And so we've got to prepare ourselves for the impact on teaching and learning for the full school year.
Thanks. I remember last meeting you had mentioned that you were looking into getting tests. One parent would like to know why we're not requiring pre-testing for COVID and why we're not requiring or providing regular testing of COVID for students, teachers, and staff who want to return to the classroom.
So I'm still working, and a number of other people in Scottsdale in the community are working to be able to identify rapid testing opportunities at a cost that's affordable. In part, if we require something, then we have to pay for it. And our own insurance company has made a shift in their policy that without a prescription, they won't cover a COVID test, which is a ridiculous change in policy, but it is a change that we have to navigate. The good news is that right now, you can get testing without charge at Scottsdale Community College. It's a pretty simple process. You sign up online. They're open 7 days a week. So we are encouraging people to take advantage of that. And whether or not you're symptomatic, it's an opportunity to assess whether or not you have COVID and are asymptomatic, or get some confirmation that you're not before you return. We don't have the ability to require students to get tested, but what I do want to do is find ways to make sure that if we have a case, that we can also provide access to testing labs and opportunities, whether it's on site or in close proximity, so people can actually take that next step for peace of mind, whether it's just to get assurance that they do or don't have it. And so we're working with partners, including the Maricopa County Department of Public Health, other private companies. We've had, I get emails all the time saying, we have a cheap test just for you. Well, I need to validate that it's actually legit. And so we're working through that, and we'll continue to work through it because we know it's an important part of keeping our schools open once we open.
Yeah, actually my family has used the locations of community colleges, and they have a pretty quick turnaround. So should students, this is regarding our special ed students, should students who have an IEP and are continuing their virtual learning or EDL have their IEP amended? Just to clarify, that means like, should they adjust the minutes or the activities or goals when we know that many of these are not going to be possible at home?
And I have not had conversation with legal counsel about a technical answer, so I'm going to give my superintendent to parent recommendation. And I would, if I was in that position as a parent, I would request an IEP meeting to have that conversation. I think it's really important to have clarity. So for families that choose to stay in EDL with students that have an IEP, it's important to have that conversation to get clarity about what we can and what we may not be able to do in that environment. But it's our commitment to be able to provide a free and appropriate public education in the least restrictive environment. And if a parent's made the choice for EDL, then we need to identify what the appropriate services are to provide the support in that learning environment.
Okay, just a couple more. How many SROs are on our campuses, and do you have any plans to increase that number?
There are 11, 9 provided by Scottsdale Police Department and 2 through Phoenix. There's 1 on every high school campus, and then the one at Ingleside Middle School supports the elementary schools located in Phoenix. Then the others that cover the other middle schools support those learning communities as well. At the present time, we don't have any plans to expand the number of SROs. We do have a high quality partnership with Scottsdale Police Department. So if we had an event or a situation that required more coverage, they've been very responsive and supportive to our needs. But at this juncture, we have not had any conversations about expanding the number of SROs.
Okay. What changes have you guys forecast for student enrollment and teacher hiring in 2021 and beyond, based on what you know right now?
I hate this question, Jill. Our numbers are down about 800 kids this year, which is not surprising. And if you look at our districts across the valley, numbers are down for every district, and that varies from 2.5% to 10 or 12%, depending on the district. And as you know, our funding's tied to the number of students that we have. And while we've got a buffer this year because the state's guaranteed we won't get less than 98% of the funding we got last year, it does impact the next year and future years. So it is a concern for us. We are also overstaffed for the number of students that we have. And that was required in order to be able to offer the 3 options that we've given our parents. Most districts have provided 2, online or in person. Scottsdale said we've got Scottsdale online, we have EDL full return, but then we also said we would try to continue some version of enhanced distance learning. That was driven largely by our specialty programs where you couldn't get the courses that you needed in Scottsdale online. So if you're in a dual language immersion program, if you're in an IB program, if you're in our STEAM programs, you couldn't get the classes that you needed in Scottsdale online. And so we've worked really hard to provide high quality teachers to be able to support those 3 learning models. Not easy. We have more staff than we would normally have for the number of students that we have. And so we anticipate next year we'll have to make some adjustments. But there's also some natural level of attrition. And so I can't tell you exactly what the numbers will be, but we are monitoring it very closely. And our hope is that as we head into the next year and hopefully are beyond COVID, that we'll be able to draw back many of those families who have made other educational choices, as well as others from surrounding communities who want to take advantage of the high quality opportunities in this district.
Thank you. Does SUSD currently have any plans to implement the 1619 project curriculum that you know of?
So I am unaware of any specific plans. I don't know how many of you have taken a look at the 1619 project. It's really powerful and it's important part of the history that students need to understand related to this country and its foundation. I just don't have any direct knowledge of whether or not there's a plan by any teachers to incorporate it in some of what they're doing. To my knowledge, there's been no discussion about formally incorporating it in the curriculum at all. And that I would think would come before the board, and that hasn't been anything that's crossed my desk yet.
This is probably a tough question to answer too, but what goals do you have for Scottsdale in the next 2 to 5 years? Anything specific that you can share?
You mean like survive COVID?
We're all trying to do that, right?
Right. Maintain student enrollment. So there is a little bit that I would share. And so if we weren't dealing with COVID and the crisis and trying to navigate all of the ambiguity and uncertainty, what I would normally be doing is going out into the community, having conversations with our stakeholders, and really getting a clear understanding of the hopes and aspirations of the community for where we want to be in the next decade. One of the, and I don't remember if I shared this the last time, but a book that I have had given to my board, cabinet, and we're going to actually move with our principal leaders as well, is Leading High Performance School Systems, Lessons from the World's Best by Mark Tucker. And it really does outline what the best districts around the world are doing to produce students that are achieving at extraordinarily high levels with an eye towards equity. Because as you know, in Scottsdale, we have students that come from advantaged backgrounds, we have students who come from disadvantaged backgrounds, and everywhere in between. But we also have the capacity within this district to ensure that regardless of your zip code, regardless of your family background, we can provide educational opportunities that allow each student to achieve their full potential. So for me, in the next 2 to 5 years, is first getting through the COVID crisis, keeping us intact as a community. It's been a community that's gone through so much trauma in the last 5 years in particular, but even historically. And what we can't afford to have happen is allow COVID to divide us again. So we have to figure out how do we stay together, move forward collectively, and then embrace a vision of the future that will allow us to ensure that our children get the very best that they can so they can compete with anyone in the world. So for me, that would be kind of the next step on the horizon.
Absolutely. Thank you. And I'm really proud that we did this, but we did our 15 minutes and we got it done in just about 15 minutes. Thank you so much for your time. Thanks for being here and making the commitment to come and answer questions for, our parents. It's much appreciated. Yeah, again, if your question wasn't answered, that means, or wasn't asked, means it was probably answered last night. So yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to come every month. Thank you again for all you do. And I hope you have a wonderful rest of the evening. And I'm sure your keynote speaker is going to be very powerful. So thank you.
Thank you. Okay, and with that, so we are joined by JOANN CROHN. She is a parent, teacher, blogger, and now a podcaster. So her blog is noguiltmom.com and her podcast has the same name. So she's here tonight to talk to us about teaching kids how to take control of virtual learning. And after her presentation, we'll have time for questions. So feel free to be putting those in the chat and we will ask those as she wraps up. So welcome, JOANN. I'll stop sharing here and you can share yours.
Thank you for having me, and hello to everybody. Thank you for being here, and I am so honored to be presenting to you all. I wish it could be in person. I feel like there's more energy when we're together, but we're gonna do the best we can virtually. So let me share my screen really quickly, and hopefully all the technology is good to me tonight. And there we go. Okay, so in this presentation, I am going to show you how to create a life of drama-free homework/schoolwork. We're kind of in this in-between time right here where I know all of you mostly are in virtual learning, but have a plan for elementary schoolers to go back really soon and then middle schoolers to go back after fall break. So what I'm going to show you here, these are tactics and strategies that you can use during virtual learning, and you can also use when your kids go back to in-person, if they do go back to in-person, or if you're staying online. I am JOANN. I have a master's of education from Arizona State University, and I'm a national board certified teacher. And really, when you think about homework time and learning at home, this is kind of the picture you want, like 2 kids, 3 kids, 1 kid at the table, doing their work without too much I don't want to say assistance from you, but think of the cheerleading or the, stay focused on this and do this problem. This is the situation in my house. I'm going to be very truthful, about 80% of the time. These are my 2 kids right here. And as a little, just to keep it real picture, having a camera on 2 kids, it doesn't go well. And there's jelly beans behind that school supply box that they are looking at right now. So this, just to be very, very truthful, this is about 80% of the time the homework situation in our house. And I think it's what parents want. We want our kids to do their work on their own. We want our kids to sit down and not get so frustrated that they leave the room screaming, or that they throw a pencil across the kitchen, that they stay with it and they don't give up. This is really what they want. I started my career in education as a 5th grade teacher. I was in Tempe Elementary School District, through elementary. And when I was a teacher, I didn't realize the homework situation at home. My daughter was 1 at the time. She had not yet brought home homework from toddler daycare. And I didn't know what parents faced. I thought that homework time was a breeze. Kids just took their homework home and they did it. Oh, wow, was I surprised when my daughter started kindergarten. And right when she started kindergarten, this is when I had my son. I had my son, and then a week after she started kindergarten, she brought home all the homework. I was exhausted. I wasn't getting any sleep. And then my daughter, who looks so cute and adorable right there, but what wasn't cute and adorable was when she would open up her work, say, I can't do this, run to the living room couch screaming, and throw a huge, huge tantrum. I didn't see it coming at all. I don't think any of us parents saw the struggle with homework coming. I was stunned, honestly. But then I started thinking, okay, well, as a teacher, what did I do in the classroom to get kids to do their work? And I started using those strategies with her. I started teaching her how to motivate herself, which I'm going to share all that with you in this presentation. And pretty soon, within 2 weeks, my daughter was coming home. She was doing her homework, and then she had the rest of the evening free. And we had no more of those tantrums and no more of those really traumatic experiences. And I've taken that and those strategies, and I teach other kids now how to do that through my courses, Homework 911 and Homework Mastery. And I've also written a book on the subject, Drama-Free Homework, A Parent's Guide to Eliminating Homework Battles and Raising Focused Kids, which lays the whole thing out in a very fun way. It is not a dry read. It is fun. I try to make every presentation I have fun, and I want it to be enjoyable. And I want you to feel not only inspired, but to see kind of a realistic picture of what it looks like. And it's not perfect. It is not perfect. But I think that the more we share what's real, the better we can get through it. And as was mentioned before, oh, we just launched a podcast. If you've noticed my lovely mic right in front of me, that's my podcast mic. And it is available on Apple Podcasts and Stitcher and every place you can find podcasts. But we offer a lot of inspiration and just the realness if you want a little bit more. But right now, let's hear from you. And I'll open up the chat. If I can get the chat. I don't know if I can just get the chat full screen. So I'll have to have someone else, if they could read the chat. If Emmy, can you see the chat when people answer this question? What best describes your child during schoolwork or homework? Is it number 1, they can't stay focused? Is it number 2, they're stressed out by the amount of homework? They just get so overwhelmed and it ends in a meltdown or a tantrum or just a shutdown? 3, they don't really care. Like nothing you do motivates them. They could be like sitting there and you'd be like, oh, you're going to get an F. And they're like, eh. Or 4, can they not handle making a mistake in homework? They are the perfectionist and they feel like they shouldn't even try. There's my, no.
It's a lot of all of those. Several people said all of the above. Kind of a little of everything.
A little of everything. Oh, I got my chat up. I see 1, 2, 3, and 4, which is caught like, I think a different day for every kid. All of the above depends on their moods. Totally, Paige. I see that. 1, can't stay focused. I hear that a lot. Okay, good. That's good to know where we are. So right now, our current routine, it causes too much stress. It causes so much stress for us as the parents. It causes so much stress for our kids, but we don't see a way around it. We don't see a way that they could still get their work done and we can have a calm house or a calm evening. And I am going to show you what we can do. In the next 30 minutes, I'm going to show you what you can do, what the teacher can do, and most importantly, what your child can do. So let's get started. First, here's what you can do in the whole homework situation. Now, many parents were working from home. I am working from home. I'm running my business from home while trying to manage my kids in online learning. We are in Chandler Unified School District. So our kindergarten through 2nd grade, and my son's in 2nd grade, they just went back this week. Let me tell you, whole new world. In terms of working at home from a parent. And my daughter is a 7th grader and they don't go back until after fall break. But we're working from home. We like to control our schedule. We usually need breaks when we're working, especially if thinking back to pre-COVID times when we were working all day, maybe in an office or outside the home. As soon as we came home, we didn't want to keep working. We needed a break. We needed to relax. Or maybe you're one of those people who, if you have a looming project, you like to get it done right away. The point being, we all have different personalities as to how we like to control and structure our work environments, and so do our kids. And so part of what is powerful about getting kids to do homework on their own is that they need to have choices and control over when they get their homework done and when they get their schoolwork done. So one of the most powerful things that you could do with your child is to ask them when they want to do their homework, when they want to do their schoolwork. Now, some of that is completely out of our control with online schooling. They have Zoom meetings they have to be at. And tell me, do you think it's funny when you ask your kid to do something here at home and they're like, I can't, Mom, I have a meeting in like 5 minutes. I'm like, you're 7. Like, when do you have a meeting? But so they have their Zoom meetings, and a lot of the control and a lot of their control is completely out of their hands. But the stuff that is, just letting them and asking them when they plan to do that is so powerful. This is my son, Eric. He threw me for a curveball when he started school, because my daughter, she came home from kindergarten and automatically, like, we got her into this routine and she started doing her homework immediately right after school and just got it done all right away. And I'm like, oh, perfect. This is how it is. Like, you know how after the first child, you think you can write your own parenting manual and you're like the expert and you're like, yes, that's it. Well, my son came and I was like, we're just going to use these same strategies again. And he's going to do his homework right after school. No, he didn't want to do his homework right after school. After school, he was tired. He was hungry. And as much as I'd be like, here's a snack, or here, like, why don't you like watch a TV show to unwind, or just offering him any of those things, he pushed back hard, so much so like it was me fighting with my child, and I didn't want that. So I asked him, I'm like, okay, bud, when do you want to do your homework? And he told me, he's like, I want to do it in the morning before school. And immediately, if you've heard the advice too, that, you know, kids should do it at home, they should do it when they come home, like right away, so that they don't forget, and never, ever have a kid do their homework in the morning before school, because it'll be all rushed. And all those voices were in my head too. But I'm like, okay, let's try it out. Let's just see how it goes. And so he didn't do his homework that night, but the next morning he woke up without any nagging from me or my husband. He did it. And it was only because it was under his control. So as much control as you can give kids, the time and the space that they can do their homework, it is going to pay off in spades. And it's not saying that what they decide at first is going to be like that forever. It's not. Kids change, situations change. My son now, he doesn't like doing it in the morning anymore. He's in second grade. And this whole week, he's been waiting until probably 7:30 at night until he's like, yeah, I need to do that. And then he'll go do his homework. But just giving that control is super powerful. This is a family, and I'm going to tell you a lot of these stories of families just so I can give you a little bit of hope that it's not just me, that it happens for a lot of people. The little girl in there, her name's Celinda, and her mom's name is also Celinda. It's a family name that gets passed down. But little Celinda, who I'll call C, she was fighting her parents so hard on homework. She was a kindergartner. She got the packet of homework once a week, and she had to complete that packet by the next Monday. And she didn't want to do it. They couldn't get her to sit down. She fought them so hard. And so Celinda took her through my program, Homework 911. And it's really about giving kids control and giving kids the control to make their own decisions and put them in the driver's seat. And what happened was unbelievable for this family. Little C goes to a sitter after school because Celinda works as a librarian and her husband works a job that takes him out in the evening. So she was at a sitter, and they were constantly fighting between the two of them when little C should get her homework done and when she should do it and like how she should complete it. And it was just a constant argument. And after they put C in control of her own homework, she basically told the sitter when she would do her own homework, she sat down, she did her packet, and it was done. And there was no more fighting in the family, all because C, she got the control. She got to say the time she wanted to do it. She got the space she wanted to do it. And she managed her own supplies while she was doing it. So control is everything to kids. And as much control we can give to them, the better. So let's go to number 2, what the teacher can do. Now, it's a hard situation we're going back to. Like, teachers haven't encountered this before. I have to say that being in the classroom as a teacher, I'm not anymore, but I feel for the teachers right now. I don't know how I would be handling it with all the uncertainty. They are rock stars in my eyes, and they're handling it with the flexibility that comes day to day with our ever-changing situation. So teachers always get props. But that said, there's not a lot of certainty right now. And as parents, we like certainty. We like to know what's going on. We like to know expectations. We like to know what the schedule is and what's going to happen. And it's just, everyone's figuring it out now. Nobody has really like the set what next week's going to look like or tomorrow's going to look like or whatever. But teachers are still there to help out. And we had a problem here where it was online learning, and which is not my favorite thing. When I said whole new world, when my son went back to second grade, oh my goodness, he would get so mad at his class assignments that he would like throw things across the room and melt down here on the office floor. Our first day of online learning, I took him out like maybe 4 hours in or 3 hours in. It was right at lunchtime where I'm like, you have done all you can do. We're going to stop for the day. And at that time, I reached out to his teacher and I just told her, I'm like, this is what's happening. He's getting so frustrated with homework. And I just told him that, you know, it's okay. You could take a break and we'll try again tomorrow. And she came back and she's like, yes, I think you did the absolute right thing. We are all adjusting to this. And he can come back tomorrow. He could take a break. And we kept up that communication throughout the whole virtual learning, where every time he had a tantrum or got really, really frustrated, I would like shoot off a quick email to her. I'm like, hey, this is what's happening right now. Anything you can do, anything I can do. And she'd like shoot me back a video of her giving like suggestions directly to him and talking directly to him and giving encouragement. And what I have found as a parent is that many times my kids will listen to the teacher over me when it comes to schoolwork. So if I'm helping my kids with like a math problem and I'm like, oh, I think it's this way. And they're like, no, that is not what my teacher said. That is not how she taught it. I'm like, okay, well, and they're like, no, you don't know it. I'm like, and I'm thinking in my head, I'm like, I was like a teacher and I went to college for education and I like teach kids how to do this online, but okay, you're right. You're totally right. And I hand it off to their teacher. And I tell the teacher exactly what's going on and what the fight is. And I let the teacher handle it from there. Because for some reason, kids trust the teacher when it comes to schoolwork over their own parents. And it's nothing to do with the parents. And it's nothing to do with the education of the parents. So if you have that happening to you, I want you to know that it is no reflection on you whatsoever. It is just that teacher-student relationship where they consider the teacher's comments as like how it's supposed to be. And parents, well, they don't know what's going on. And I struggle with that as well. So every time it happens, no, we're all going through it. So when I say with the teacher, if there's ever a problem happening with your student, I would just start a discussion. Just shoot off that email. Usually my email goes something like this. Hey, it's Joanne. My child is having trouble and then I insert the subject there. And I wanted to get your advice. I always approach it as something where I need the teacher's input. I need them involved in the situation because everything I have tried, it is not working and they are not listening. And then I say, here's what's happening. And I describe it. How can we help her or him? And usually what happens is they'll come back to me and they'll be like, no problem. We'll talk to them about it. And then I step back and problem solve. I've done this many times. I did this when my daughter started middle school and she was having some issues in math and she was having some issues in social studies. And I would just reach out to the teacher just to explain what's going on, explain what is happening at home that they don't see in the classroom so that they can address it. Because I'm a firm believer that as soon as people know what's going on and we communicate that to them, the problem is more likely to get fixed. So please don't hesitate reaching out to teachers. When I was a teacher, I totally wish that more parents would have sought my guidance and sought my help because teachers can help a lot in the classroom because they just have a very different relationship with students than we have with our own children. And now here's the best part, what your child can do. Because really what we want to do is we want to put kids in charge of their own learning so they become self-sufficient and that we can step back. And to do that, they really need a structure that they can go along. And I say structure, it's not a schedule, it's not a step-by-step process, but it's like a loose basis that they can form their homework routine around. And I call this the secret sauce. This is the things that I taught my daughter that took her from tantrums and meltdowns to completing all her homework on her own. And she's still like that. She's still the child who like will go and complete all her homework. And she uses a lot of the motivating strategies that I taught her in kindergarten to this day. And here's what they are. The first thing is mastering the mindset. Now, many of you might have heard of the growth mindset versus the fixed mindset. It was popularized by Dr. Carol Dweck out of Stanford. The fixed mindset says that, I had the fixed mindset. I can speak from this very, very truthfully. You believe that like you're as smart as you're ever going to be. And it's no use to try something new because you might fail. And if you do fail, that was a direct reflection on you and your abilities. And it's no use to try again because you're just not smart enough and you can't get it. That's the fixed mindset. They think that all of their intelligence they have already and they can't gain any more. The growth mindset believes that the mind is like a muscle. And the more you work it, the more you challenge it, the stronger and the bigger it gets. So every single challenge isn't looked at like a failure. It's looked at, hey, I didn't get that this time. I'm going to try it again, and I'm going to get better at it with each attempt. And that's the growth mindset. And the one way that you can help your children develop growth mindset is just to talk about it with them. In the book Mindset, Carol Dweck talks about a study that they did where they split up a classroom and they taught each part of the classroom the same exact material, but one group they taught the growth mindset too. They're like, your mind's a muscle and this might be hard, but the more you work on it, like the better you'll get at the material. And then the other group was their control group. They didn't talk about the growth mindset whatsoever. And it was something like 6 weeks. They learned this new material. The teachers had no idea which group was which. They didn't know who got the growth mindset and they didn't know who got nothing. And at the end of like the 6 weeks, they looked at the results and they found that the kids with the growth mindset and just talking about it outperformed the ones who got no talk about the growth mindset. So just talking about it and making kids aware that there's two mindsets and they can change them at any time is one of the most easiest ways to start having your child master mindset. The next one I've talked about a little bit, it's controlling their own schedule. One of the things I did with my daughter is we listed out everything she had to do after school. And she made this list. I didn't make this list. I was like, okay, well, what do you have to do? And she's like, unpack my backpack. And so I wrote it down. And eat afternoon snack. So I wrote that down. And then she ordered them. And I made it pretty. I did make it pretty on this after school checklist. But that was her order and her like tasks that she decided for herself and how she wanted to do them. And it was all in her control. So having them create their own schedule is amazing. So this is a family. This is Rochelle and her family. And what was happening is that her son was pushing back against reading. He did not want to read whatsoever. She could not get him to sit down and read a single book. As many times as she would kind of poke him or prod him or try to encourage him, he was just like, nope, I'm not going to do it. Until she let him decide when he would read and what he would get to do after school before he read. So he sat down. He was like, okay, well, I don't want to read right away. I want to read a little bit later. She said, okay, we'll try this. Fine. Within a few days, she came home and she found her son voluntarily reading. Like without any prodding from her, she just stepped back after having the conversation and he started doing it on his own. And that's the power of letting kids create their own schedule. They will do stuff on their own that you've nagged them about forever. And it seems like magic and it feels like magic, but it is just giving up that control to kids and giving them the choice of when they want to do the task. And then organizing the supplies. This one was huge for me because my daughter would come home from school and we would spend, no joke, 20 minutes looking for a pencil because, oh my gosh, you cannot do homework in crayon. You cannot do homework in marker. Like as a teacher, I knew this, but we could not find a pencil. And I felt like it was my responsibility to keep pencils. And I didn't enjoy that responsibility whatsoever because I wasn't the one using the pencil. She was the one using the pencil. And then it would get misplaced after she used it. And then I would have to go find a new pencil. So I'm like, nope, this stops now. We got just a little box from Target and taped this list that you see to the top of the box. You can see it's just taped with packing tape. It's nothing fancy. And I have this form for you too, if you want it. But she made sure every day that everything on that homework supply box list was back in the box at the end of homework time. And that was something that she was responsible to check. And just having the list in front of her, her knowing what was in that box and her being in charge of that box, I didn't have to look for another pencil again, because what changed was, it wasn't, Mom, I need a pencil. In her mind now it became, oh no, I lost my pencil. I need to find it, because it went to her to control the supplies and not to me. So just help them organize their supplies so that they can take total control over it. And then, oh, this is a great story. This is all about motivation. One of the tricks I'm going to teach you next. Kids need to know how to motivate themselves. This family, she was a 5th grader and she was out of school for 2 weeks. This was a few years ago, so not COVID related whatsoever. But she came back and she had this mountain of homework to do and no will or no desire to do it. It's Olivia. I was blanking on her name, but this is Olivia. Her daughter, she was beside herself. She didn't want to start, and then she kept getting homework coming each day. And it was just a massive overwhelm. It was like how we would feel if we were out from work for a few days. We had this big pile on our desk and we had no idea how to start. And so they started really slow. And one of the things I suggest, and what worked really, really well with my daughter and worked really, really well with Homework 911 and Homework Mastery students, is using a timer. And it could be a kitchen timer. It could be a cell phone timer. Kids set the time and then they work focused until the time goes off. So what I suggest is that kids set the timer for like 5 minutes, and you ask them, and I asked my daughter, I'm like, do you think you could just work on this for 5 minutes? Just 5 minutes, just 5 minutes, just see how it goes. She's like, yeah, I could do it for 5 minutes. I'm like, okay, go for it. And she'll hit her timer, and she did it for 5 minutes. And what happens? What happens when we have focused bursts of energy versus unfocused bursts of energy? Well, in focus time, we get so much more done than we ever thought was possible. And that's really the magic of the timer, is having that point of focus for kids where they get so much of their work done that at the end they're like, oh, that wasn't so bad. I could do that again. My dog just let herself in my door. No. And so this family, they did that. They started testing time focused, and then she would have a break of unfocused time. This was the first day with her little green timer right there. And notice the date, it was September 4th, 2018. The very next day, she says, I just walked in my bedroom to change and came back out to my 10-year-old already doing her homework, timer already set. Excuse me, what? I've literally never seen this girl so self-motivated. And this timer, it works for everything. Like my kids do timer work when they have to do chores that they don't want to do. I hear, I can't say it right now because I have a little Google Mini and it'll set it off. But I hear, like, I'll say Alexa's voice instead since it won't set it off. It's like, okay, Alexa, set the timer for 5 minutes. I hear that. And then I hear all the dishes in the dishwasher coming out and like being put in, because they know that when they worked for focused amounts of time, they get a lot done, and it won't stretch on forever and ever and ever. So it's time for you to finally have a calm and happy homework time. I know I have given you a lot of info in this session, so I also wanted to give you access to our No Guilt Mom subscriber hub, where you can get a lot of free goodies, including I have the script I use in Teachers in there under my homework help section. I have the responses to 4 excuses when it comes to homework in there, as well as the printable schedule you saw and the homework supply box thing you saw. And to get into that, I created something kind of cool. It's a text code where all you have to do is you text the word drama-free to 44222. And I start talking to you right away. Like, it's magic. It's total magic. And then we get to be connected to, you get access to the subscriber hub and all the goodies that are in there. And you're connected to the No Guilt Mom community as well. And even though we're No Guilt Moms, we love dads as well. And I'll open it up for questions.
So far, we just have comments, excuse me, in the chat. So everyone feel free to chime in with questions.
I'll go through the comments right now too. I didn't have chat open.
Can you see it, everything?
I can see it, yeah.
Okay, perfect. Here we go. We have a couple coming in.
I see scheduled breaks work like magic. Yeah, our office assistant ensures some breaks too. Oh, Megan agrees. Like she knows nothing. The teacher has to tell them how to do it. Totally normal.
Yeah, now we have 3 questions at the bottom.
Okay. What do you suggest? Okay, wait. Oh, there's one above that. I'm sorry. Jill's question. My son always saves his homework until right before bed because he knows it means that he will get to stay up. Oh, they're so sneaky. My kids do this too. For me, all the questions, the important questions come before bed. Like the life, like altering questions. What do you suggest to fix that? So my kids, what I do is they have a bedtime. They have a total bedtime. They still like cuddles for their bedtime. So that is something that I use as kind of an if-then, or when-then statement. And what I mean by that is when you're in bed by 8:30, then we can do cuddles. And it's something that they really like. And it sets their bedtime so that if they go over that, I'm not available for cuddles at that time. So setting a set bedtime where something always happens at bedtime. Maybe it's a story, maybe it's just like a talk with you, anything that you can connect to bedtime that he would then miss when he stays up later than that. That's just one idea. That might not work in your situation. And so another idea is just to really stick it to that bedtime, or ask your son what time he thinks he needs to go to bed, and start the conversation that way and have him decide his bedtime when he goes to bed. And of course, you're just having a conversation with him. He does not have total like authority in this situation. You are still the boss. You are still in charge. But he may be able to negotiate like a 5-minute difference in his bedtime, which will give him choice over his bedtime. And if he doesn't stick to that, you can then go back to the drawing board and be like, hey, you didn't stick to your bedtime. We need to rethink this. Your homework took too long. When do you want to do your homework so you can make your bedtime? And it's really coaching him into making the decisions of, hey, like there's all this work that you need to do, and deciding what time do I need to go to bed to get the most sleep and what time do I need to do my homework. So just having a conversation with him, starting with those choices about bedtime, and asking him when he needs to start homework to get to his bedtime, and then go from there and see where he takes it. I think, and if you need more suggestions, I'm always available by email, and I would love to help you strategize on that one. Andrea says, what do you suggest for the perfectionist child? They deal with mindset. Theirs is a mindset issue. It's the belief that every failure they make, it means that they're a horrible person or they're not smart, and that they no use in trying because this failure has just shown them that they don't have the abilities. So they're really stuck in the fixed mindset. So with a perfectionist child, it's good to start talking about growth mindset with them. A really great book to read is Mindset by Carol Dweck, if you are not familiar with that. And start talking about how the mind is a muscle, and the more you work it, the better it gets. My son struggles a lot with perfectionism, as does my daughter. And it's not a perfect process. The first time you'll get like little tiny results, but over time, and I'm saying it does take a lot of time to build that up. It takes we'll go through really great periods and then we'll kind of slink back. But just keep having that discussion. Know that's where your child's mindset lies, and they will eventually figure out that perfectionism doesn't serve them. But I just want to make sure that you know that it's not a quick fix. It's just going to be an ongoing discussion with a perfectionist. I hope that helps. Can you say more about the focus time? Yeah, so where's my phone? I was going to show you. So like the timer. Working focused, you get, like I use these hacks as well. you get so much more done working focused, where you're just attuned to the task and you're not distracted by anything else. So for kids, it would be distracted by like toys in their room, or looking at Roblox, or having a pet come in. It's just using the timer as a reminder that, hey, I am working on this task right now. This is where I need all of my attention. And then once the timer goes off, my brain could be free. I could go and I could like run around, or I can go pet the dog, or I can go outside, and then coming back and setting the timer again for some more of the focus time. I use this in my writing. When I was writing my book, I would do 25 minutes on my timer, and I would just be like, okay, I don't want to write all this. This is a lot. This is really overwhelming. All of these like words I have to get down. And so I'm just going to set my timer for 25 minutes. I'm just going to see what I can do in 25 minutes. I don't have to get it all done. And usually I was able to accomplish a lot more than I thought I was. And it works the same for kids. When we're focused, we get a lot more done than when we're unfocused. And the timer just helps kids be reminded of that. At bedtime, my children turn into dehydrated philosophers who need a hug. I love that. It's always when it's like, I need water, I'm dying. I've had to get the water before. Seeing that comment made me thirsty. I see other people drinking as well with that one. Yeah, they talk about the big things in life and they want all the cuddles. Katrina, my son will say he can't come up with something about writing. He says he doesn't have an imagination. Then he will give up and says he hates his life. Do you have any suggestion for me? I've heard this one before, sometimes from my children, and I know I've heard it many times from parents of children and writing. They, for some reason, kids have associated writing with this horrible, horrible, dreadful task, which I think a lot of us adults do as well. I would use the timer with them and be like, you know what? How about you just write for, I would say like 2 minutes or 1 minute. See what you can put on the page. If you can't think of any word but the, just write the multiple times over and over. Just get your pen moving or your pencil moving. And this was a strategy we used in the classroom too. Because what would usually happen is if they're told to write the or the same word over and over, they may do it the first time through, and they may, depending how strong-willed they are, they may do it multiple times through thereafter, just write the. But the more practice they have just putting pen to paper and seeing that they could actually put words on a page, they might try some other things. He's putting a lot of pressure on himself to come up with the most imaginative writing piece imaginable. A lot of writers, and this may be helpful sharing with him, but writing magic, it never happens in the first draft. In fact, it's usually called, usually more language than this, but the crappy first draft. You just got to get what is in your head out on the page. And that is what professional writers do. And they are unhappy with their work when they put it down, but they know it has to come out of your head first and put it on the page. And then the magic comes in the editing and the rereading and the writing over again. So just tell them that, you know what, writers aren't perfect. When they go put it on the page, you just need to put out anything in your brain and just leave it from there. And then hopefully in class, teachers are going through editing, which I'm sure they do. Jill, I was thinking of letting him suffer the consequences of not getting his homework done. Do it. Do it. Sometimes the best motivator for kids, and this only works with kids who are perfectionists, and it works with some of the other types too. The only person this doesn't work with is kids who are like, I don't care. Like, you can't put any consequences on me. But saying that, oh, okay, if you don't want to do your homework, let's just write a note to your teacher saying like you didn't feel like doing your homework. We'll just put it away. We'll just put it away. Sometimes they'll be like, oh no, don't do it. And I've gotten to the point where my child would be so angry about homework. And I'm like, no, that's it. We're done. We're done. And I close the book and I put it in his backpack, and he would like stomp away down the hall, incredibly mad at me. But sometimes our kids just get so emotionally overwhelmed that like us putting away the homework and us putting a stop to the homework that night, that's the best thing that we can do. Because the next night they'll come back, you know, they'll probably talk to their teacher. We might talk to their teacher. And they have a new slate. They can start over again. They can do it again. But yeah, never be afraid just to let homework be undone, because teachers, they know, they see it, and they have ways of getting kids to do their homework in class. I see perfectionism and procrastination are often associated with not being perfect or being lazy, but with fear. Yeah, there's a lot of fear. Addressing the trauma behind the fear can contribute to positive academic and social achievement and growth. Totally. There's a lot of fear of being wrong, of being like a failure and a mistake. And talking about those, how like people have to try over and over again, is good. It's completely different. Just looking for other questions. Don't cry. I have one that catastrophizes. Yeah, everything's the worst case scenario. I'm so familiar with catastrophizing. Oh my goodness, everything is awful, even when it's something small, and she thinks the result will be the most awful thing. Thoughts. Okay, so catastrophizing. And if anyone's not familiar with that term, it is believing that something will just get worse and worse and worse and worse and worse, and you'll have no control over it. And I feel like I know catastrophizing very intimately because I do it myself. It's something that we adults do. It contributes to anxiety. And one thing that's helpful is just to bring in a little mindfulness and talk about how there are some thoughts that serve you and some thoughts that do not. And it helps to have a picture associated with it. So when we recognize a thought that only makes us upset and only makes us anxious, we can think of it like a freight train. If kids have seen freight trains going by, how they barrel by and they're noisy and they're causing all of this commotion. But here we are standing to the side and we're unaffected by it. We hear the noise, but it personally doesn't affect us. So thinking of those bad thoughts like a freight train driving by. There it is. Okay, I think that this is going to happen. My dog is so insistent. I think that this is going to happen. This is just my noisy freight train. It is going by. It's going by. It does not affect me. It's going to be okay. And everybody, so many people have those thoughts. And we have no evidence that they're true. They're just our noisy freight train. My chat went by. Okay. And then, what's the advice for one who does not care, who is not afraid of the consequences? That is a good question. For the ones who don't care, associate it, group it with something they care about, some motivator. It could be of their own making. So maybe they really, really like to play Roblox. And in order to play Roblox, to have that privilege, they also need to have their homework done. And I wouldn't suggest this for all kids. This is kind of more of a last resort for kids. But for those who don't care, they need that kind of reward at the end. So when you're done with your homework, then you can play Roblox. That's your reward for getting done with your homework. And always framing it in a positive way, not making it like something that's being taken away, but something that they get to do as a result of doing their homework. So for those who aren't afraid of consequences, just group it with something they like to do, make that their reward. It's even more effective if they decide that's their reward. So you can come to them being like, hey, I know you don't want to do your homework. Like, what is like something you really, really like to do? And like, if you get your homework done, like this would be a total reward for you. And they may come up with really ridiculous things like going to Disneyland or doing something crazy. Or they might just be like, oh, I just want to, go ride my bike. Or have, like, for my daughter, she liked this little like fruit snack packet. She just wanted a fruit snack packet. And grouping it with that positive thing, they see that, okay, well, this is my reward. This is what I'm going to work towards. And it helps get them to get the thing that they need to get done so that they can have the reward at the end. And then Jenny's, what are your thoughts on homework in general? Ooh, even with all these great strategies, do the benefits outweigh the stress? Oh, that is a loaded question. So, homework. I mean, as a teacher, I really dreaded doing homework. I dreaded assigning homework. I think that in the elementary grades, homework has its purpose to practice in class, especially in math achievement. If they learn something in class, practicing that skill that they learn is really beneficial for them, as long as it's an appropriate amount of time for the student's grade level. And a really great like measure of it is it's a metric like the PTA Association, the PTO Association of America says that it's like 10 minutes per grade level of school. So kindergartners and first graders, like they suggest 10 minutes, second graders 20, third graders 30, like that's the max homework for that age level. So I always think that homework time should fall within those time limits, and that if students are going without like over those time limits, that's when a discussion with the teacher is great to have, because sometimes teachers don't know how much kids are struggling with the material until we as parents just talk and say, hey, like this is taking him so much time. What can we do here? So it just depends on the grade level. And then high schoolers and middle schoolers, they should be totally on their own with homework and be able to handle it without our intervention. Those are all the questions. Thank you so much for having me. And I hope I get to see you all in like the No Guilt Mom world. And it's been a joy. I love talking about this.
Thank you. And our meeting will be on YouTube for anyone who missed it, that you can spread the word. And then our presentation, like I said, will be up on our website, so you can get all the links and everything that was included tonight. So thank you again, Joanne, and thank you everyone tonight for being here.